Hello and welcome to Soul Basics Soul Chat. Today we are talking with Melanie Holland. I would like to introduce Melanie as someone more than a wife, a mother, a nurse, or someone suffering from cancer. She is someone who loves to travel, to read, to write, and to dance. She searches for ways to explore and enlighten her life, and by doing so, brings so much joy not only to herself, but to others. Welcome, Melanie. I am so grateful that you are here today. Can you please share with us how your journey to self-exploration came to be?
Well, thank you, Tammy. I'm glad I'm here. First of all, thank you for that introduction. It's always really interesting and gives me all the feels when someone introduces myself because even though I know I'm all those things, sometimes you forget, or sometimes hearing it from a different perspective is really, it just feels really good. So thank you for
Aw,
that.
I'm so glad.
I really enjoy that.
Well, you are all those things and more.
Thank you. So my journey to how did you call it? Self-exploration. Yes. Um,
Self-exploration.
yeah. So I think it mostly started in 2015. This is the catalyst. That's where I really I dived quite deeply in 2015. So I was working as an RN, and I'd only been working, it wasn't not even 5 years because I went back to nursing school when I was older, 27 years old. I'm like, okay, finally, I know what my life is and what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so, things were
Yeah.
um, how they were supposed to be. I was married, I had a daughter, I had a job, everything was pretty stable. And then in 2015, um, it was a really big shock. I went into my family doctor because I was having some back problems, like really, like my back just really hurt. I could hardly put on a bra, everything was really tight. And I thought in my head, I'm like, you know what, I need to get some physio, I probably need to lose some weight, blah, 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 blah. I had all these things that I thought what I would be doing. And I went to my doctor. She's like, well, yeah, we can do that, but let's have an x-ray just because. So thank I cannot stress how thankful I am for my family doctor because she didn't just ignore, she actually listened and said, you know what, let's investigate a little bit longer. So I went to an x-ray and she phoned me and she said, so what have you been doing, Melanie? And I said, what do you mean? What have I been doing? I'm like, I'm just working. She's like, no, something's wrong because you have a fracture on on your spine. Yes, I have a
Oh,
fracture. Yeah. And it's like, no, 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 no. She's like, so like we need to investigate more and more and more and more. So there was bone scans and CT scans and everything else. And the last thing that I did actually was a mammogram. And in the mammogram, they found a lump and I did a biopsy. Um, so with all that information, um, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. So it had already spread to my bones and to my liver. So my the fracture on my back was probably because there's a tumor there that was making those vertebrae very um, fragile. So if I could have just slipped and it could have made the fracture. It could have been a million things. Um, so that made my whole life trajectory and everything that I was planning to do, well, my path had to completely diverge. So at that moment, I had to decide how I was going to make, like, how I was going to, like, how was I going to be myself? How was I going to be myself with all of this going on? I knew I had to make some choices, and I remember it was it wasn't a like a long thought out thing, but I just remember thinking I have to be positive. Like I have like there's things I am not ready. I'm not ready for this diagnosis to hold me back or make me afraid. And so that one little thought that said, okay, no, you're going to make this not a pity party. You're not going to make this so debate, devat. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Um,
Take your time.
yeah. Anyway, so with that, if I knew I wanted to have a positive outlook, I wanted, you know, all those things. So that meant I had to look at myself. I had to really focus on what was important to me. And then I needed to learn ways to cope in, positive and good ways. So I just, every time there was a chance to, um, like there was a yoga class that one of the RNs was hosting for people with cancer. I said, okay, like I hung on to those things that would make me remember the the beauty and the positivity. And so I just
Oh,
wanted all that information, you know transformation weekends and anything that made me connect to my soul again,
yeah.
basically it was.
That is so beautiful. Um, Not a lot of people could do that, to be able to go to that positive place. Um, so this happened in 2015. How old were you at the time?
um so 7 years ago, so I was 37, I guess, 36,
So
37.
still like really young, like just in your mid
Very young.
30s. And how old was Abby, your little girl?
Abby was 2.
Oh my gosh.
So it's it's funny just because now that, like, so she's 10 years old now.
Yeah,
So when I was diagnosed and she was 2 years old, I had different worries. I had different fears. 2 years old, if whatever treatments I was doing wasn't going to work, Abby she would not meet, like, she would not ever remember me, right? She would never really remember me, right? So I remember thinking to myself, okay, if this doesn't work, she's still fine. Like my family support is amazing. I'm like, okay, but I want to at least want to see her until she gets into like school, right? Like
right.
I'd love to see her, get into school. And I'm like, so we got there. So she's was in school. And then but then my different worries were, hey, she's older now. She understands a lot more, and questions, why is mom going to,
Right.
treatments, why is mom not working, all those things, because she's with peers and she sees that most parents work, things like that. So, trying to, she knows what it means to be sick,
Right.
right? So those were my worries then. And then I tell myself, okay, she's in school. I would love to I want to be with her until like she gets to grade 5. Like I just
Yeah.
made small, like little
Little
goals,
goals along the
basically.
way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
just can you help us appreciate though, um, what stage 4 cancer is? Because there's
So,
different stages.
so stage 4 m- means that it's metastasized from the original area.
Okay.
So, because I didn't know that I didn't even know I had a lump in my breast. I didn't know, I was oblivious. That was the other thing. Like I was not listening to my body. I'm definitely listening to my body a lot more. So the treatments are basically, I was told it's not curable. I'm always going to have cancer. So I still go every 3 weeks and I have IV treatments. I'm on oral meds as well. Um, and when we asked the doctor, um, so what's the prognosis? I didn't want to ask that question, but I mean, we had to. And I remember him just saying it could be years. And I'm like, well, like, what do you mean? Like a year, 2 years, 20 years? So I lived with a lot of uncertainty for quite a long time, and it still creeps up. Uncertainty definitely creeps up because I know that I'm not going to, I'm always going to have tumors. So it just means that I want to be stable. I don't want any new
Right.
growth. I don't want any one of those things. And I know that I'm going to be living with this for the rest of my life. Um, and so what happened for me with, stage 4 breast cancer, um, I did radiation, I did chemo, just to make sure that the tumors that were there weren't going to grow anymore.
Right.
We wanted them to just not grow anymore. So that I did all that, um, and everything was kind of stable. And then, oh, Abby would have been in kindergarten or grade 1. I can't remember, but um, I thought I was fine. I didn't have, I felt the same as usual.
Yeah.
But Abby and I were having lunch and we were about to go meet some of her girlfriends for a little play date. And I said to Abby, well, I wanted to say, okay, let's go brush your teeth. It's time to go. And I said something, and I knew that what I was speaking was not the actual words that I wanted to speak. And I thought, well, that's weird. But I mean, you mumble up your words sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet I know when are too tired, sometimes the word is a little bit mumbled. I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. But I'm like, okay, so let's try it again. So I tried to say, Abby, let's go brush your teeth. It's time to go. And still, the words that I was saying were not the words I wanted to say. And even Abby was like, couldn't understand what I was trying to say. So then I was in full panic mode. I thought I was having a stroke, actually. Was I when I as an RN, I was on the stroke unit. So I know all
Mm-hmm.
the symptoms, all that. And I thought, okay, if it's a stroke, it can be fixed. I gotta get to the cost, get to the hospital. But I was so like beside myself that instead of phoning 911, I phoned Ray, my husband. And he answers that phone at his work and he's like, hey, what's up? And I was just, I don't know, I was crying. I don't know, even know what I was saying, but he's like, do you need help? But I said, yes. So Ray phoned the ambulance. He phoned our neighbor beside us, and he was at home, so he come over because at this point, I wasn't worried about myself as much, but Abby, because
Right.
so
How old was she?
she was 6.
6.
No,
Okay. Thank you.
she was in she was in kindergarten.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 5, 6. So I was so out of sorts that Abby was so scared, and I could see how scared she was, and like I was so messed up that she like she didn't want to come near me, and
Mm,
I couldn't comfort her because I was completely a mess. So knowing that I couldn't comfort her even just made it even worse, right? So she's scared. There's no one else here. She doesn't know what's going on. So thankfully our neighbor came over, Scott, and kind of like kind of hung out with Abby until the ambulance came. When the ambulance came, I was almost able to speak again. Like I could kind of form a sentence. It was super, super hard. Like I had to really think, and it was very choppy and all that kind of stuff. Um, Ray got home pretty quick. By the time I got to the hospital, I could speak normally.
mm,
So they didn't really like, there was no rush to get me like seen. And we were sitting there and I was talking to Ray and it happened again. I couldn't speak
mm.
properly. And um, so we went like all of a sudden it was like, okay, trauma bay number 1. And it's like, oh shit, here we go. Sorry,
Right.
sorry to make
That's
like
okay. That's okay. That's not the worst thing that's been said.
um and I'm like, no, this is not good. So I remember in the trauma room. Now, like as an RN, like so like I know what it means when you're in the trauma room, and
Right.
like I know that there's going to be a million doctors and people and nurses, but still I was like, whoa, 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 this is too much. Like
Right.
I was trying, like I wanted everyone else to calm down because so I could calm down, but I couldn't because
Right.
it was
You're
high
feeling all
stress.
that energy in the
Yes.
room. Yeah.
And then like Ray's in the room too, and he can't like be beside me because people need to be with me, and I can
Right.
just see him at the end of the room, and he's beside himself, right? So I'm beside myself, and one of the neurologists came, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know this doctor, and I know exactly what he's going to do. I know what tests he's going to
Right.
like show me for, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I got this. He takes out the first picture, and it's just literally a piece of paper, and there's like pictures on it, like a cactus and a glove and a hammock and a tree or something. And you literally just, and I know, I'm like, okay, I know what's going to happen. He's
Right.
going to point and have to tell you what it is. So he
Right.
points to the tree. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I know this is a tree. But what I said was like apple or like something completely
Really.
like, I was like, oh, this is bad.
And you know this, like you
I
know what you're supposed
know.
to say, but you're saying the wrong word and you can't help yourself.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my
I was
gosh.
so frustrated,
Oh my
so scared.
gosh.
So they rushed me in for like get the CT of the head.
Okay.
And I come back and I'm like, okay, please tell me that it's a stroke, that, you know, we can get the right medications in. And no, they said, no, you have a a tumor on your left temporal
Oh my gosh,
head.
Melanie.
So, um, yeah, I I didn't know what to do with that. I'll be honest. I'm like, is
So
that,
what you thought at the time, you knew you had stage 4 and you thought it was at
yep,
bay, and then here you go. Like I think you said Abby was 2, so 3 years later, this is what's
yeah,
happening now. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
And then what
So,
happened from there?
so I stayed in the hospital a couple days, just to monitor. And then I was, um, consults, for, so in Red Deer, unfortunately, they can do pretty much everything at the cancer center, but they can't do, brain surgery or brain radiation.
Okay.
Those were my options, surgery or radiation. So I had to go to Calgary and meet the surgeons in Calgary and, decide what was the best course of action. Um, Now, radiation honestly was probably harder for me than chemo. So I was very unsure. I'm like, oh, radiation to the brain. And if, I'm like, I don't know. So because there was just the one, there wasn't any multiple different spots. I opted to have it removed. I said, I don't want to have radiation think and then worry all the time about what's, if it's going to grow back, all that kind of stuff. So I did the surgery.
Okay.
Um, and again, I was faced with that, like, okay, how are you going to handle this, Melanie? I said, okay, I'm going to make this like really interesting because like brain surgery, it's amazing that they can do this.
Yeah.
So I got like very curious about it, and then I once again I'm like, okay, I need to start taking care of myself. I had really good friends that were really good and interested in like, using, diet to help and various things like Reiki and meditation and, um, and anything I could take, I would take it.
Yeah.
I would take both the like Western medicine and anything else. I said,
Yeah.
I'll take it all.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel the same. I mean, I'm not in your boat, but I do feel the same. How Western medicine, it can take you so far, but then it's on you to take yourself that extra mile. And you're amazing. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please
No, it's
continue.
okay. Yeah, so I actually went into the surgery. Like, I don't think I was scared. I think I had like told myself such a great story and how I was in amazing hands, and like I surrendered, I think. I trusted that whatever was going to be was going to be what
Yeah.
it is. Um my biggest fears was that I would completely change because like who I was, my behaviors, right? I mean, you're playing with your brain, it can change personality, like, I was very, very worried about that. I wasn't worried that I was going to die, actually. I was just worried that I'd come out and I'd be a completely different person.
Right.
But yeah, I went through the surgery and I think I was only in Calgary for a week
Yeah.
before I went home.
You know what amazes me about you is that you have or you live with this every day. Um, when you found out you had cancer, it was like boom. It wasn't even just like stage 1 and then it's growing so that you had a chance to even get used to the idea. Not that anybody ever really gets used to the idea, but you would over time. But it was like boom. stage 4. Um, and then when you think you're in that false sense of security, even though you know that things can happen, boom, you've got brain cancer. Like it's spread to your brain. And through it all, you have been the most positive force of nature. And like, when I said in the beginning, you're somebody that loves to travel, to read, to sing, to dance, I wasn't making that stuff up. I mean, I see you all the time. We chat all the time, and it's, well, I got Zumba today. Well, I got this today. And you, or I, you have, I just want to say, Melanie, she has a thing on Mondays called Magical Mondays. And if you have not tuned in for that, you need to, because Melanie is magical. And she also has a site called um, uh, a group called Essential Connections. Join that group because she loves to connect people with one another. It's what she does. You are magic, and you light up this world, and you love to travel. Just tell us some of the traveling you've done.
All right. Well, let's see. I've gone to quite a few of the states, as a child with my family, or I went down to Tennessee when one of my best friends from high school, she met her Tennessee, so they moved down there. I went down there.
Yeah.
And I've done some really
Tell us about your travel to Ireland. How long
okay.
did you go
I
for?
want to tell so
Oh, sorry.
before we go to Ireland, I always like I don't know when I was in college, first year of college, this was way before like MSN chats, like
Hmm.
so my friends and I, it was called Dreamscape, and it was like a chat thing. I don't even know how
Okay.
to explain what it. So um both of my best friends met their husbands. One, he was from Tennessee, and that's how they met, was like online.
Hmm.
And my other best friend, he was from England. So in college, so I was 17 years old because I was always the young one. So I didn't turn 18 until like December. Anyways, I met this this guy from England. And so we would chat, and literally like it's just typing like words. And then we started like sending letters to each other like in the mail, and like the only way we could have a picture of each other was like literally sending a picture to each
This
other.
is old school stuff.
That was
What fun.
it was fun. And I was pretty sure I was in love with him and blah 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 blah. So I decided to go to England by myself to meet this guy I'd never met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was 17, and I was damn sure I knew what I was gonna do, and blah blah blah. And like my parents couldn't, like, I'm like, no, I'm going. Like,
You got some fight in you.
yeah, sometimes, yeah. So I literally went to England by myself.
Mhm.
Well, Sonia came with me,
It's
but no,
all
no, no,
together now. Okay,
not
I know
quite.
where this is going.
But
Sorry.
we got to England, and Sonia and Andy went. He was in the south. I went in with this gentleman, and we went up north.
Okay.
So yeah, we landed in London together, but we didn't spend any time together. I literally went off with some guy I'd never met.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, so I love doing those. I like I guess I like to like do the scary things and the things that like you sure you should do
That
it.
is scary. I'm glad it all worked out.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
later
had
on, you met Ray.
yeah. So this is I met Ray in 2003. It was like October-ish. And I had already planned to leave for Ireland for 6 months in February.
Hmm.
So like not even 6 months, right? October. Yeah. Like 3 or 4 months. I had met Ray at the bar. We started hanging out. I told him at the beginning, I'm like, you know what? In February, like I'm going to Ireland for 6 months for sure. I don't know. Maybe I'll stay. I don't know. He said, yeah, yeah, okay, okay, okay. So so we still dated, and all of a sudden he's like, you know what, Mel? I'm like, what? It's like, I love you. I was like, okay. Excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. I'm like, I'm like, okay, okay, I do love you. I said, but I'm still going to Ireland. So
To
I did it.
Ireland
I
for six
went
months.
for 6 months. My dad was born in Dublin, so I have family there. So I stayed with my great aunt. And I just toured all around Ireland. I would use like someone like, like a tour, or I just got on a bus, or I would do whatever. Um, I even went over to Paris while I was there, and that was another probably shouldn't have gone. I It was near the end of my trip, and I had the hostel booked, I had the flights booked, I went to the airport, and I'm like, okay, I need to get some cash out, put my MasterCard into like the ATM. They're like, no, decline, decline, decline. I was like, what's going on? Shouldn't be declined. So I figured out that my card had expired.
Mm.
I had no cash. No, I had about 20 euros of cash. I had no traveler's checks anymore. Like this was a while ago.
Yeah.
So I had 20 euros to go to Paris. And I thought, okay, I can either just leave this airport and forget about it, or I can just go to Paris.
Mm.
So once again, I'm freaking out. I'm bawling my head eyes out, but I phoned like MasterCard. I'm like, okay, you just send me a new card to this hostel in Paris. And the other guy was on the other line must have thought, what the heck is wrong with this girl? And my plan was to beg people for money. I'm like, okay, once I'm on the plane, whoever's sitting beside me, I'm like, please just give me some cash. Like
Oh
I'm in
my.
big trouble. Got onto the plane. There was like 5 people on the plane, no one near me. So I just cried the whole time to Paris.
Mm.
I got there. I had enough money to get onto the train from the airport into the city. Um, got like I had a metro book from my cousin, and so I knew where I was going. So I come out from the metro station, and the first thing I see is a whole bunch of people sleeping on a mattress under a bridge. I was like, oh my God, that's gonna be me. I found the hostel, and I said, okay, it'll be fine. And I started saying, okay, my story. And then I just started bawling. She's like, it's okay, it's okay. You can still have your bed. She's like, we'll just hold your passport when you get your money. It's fine. So yeah, my MasterCard came within like 2 or 3 days. It was really quick. And then I had my mom like wire me money. And that was
Wow.
one of the most amazing steps ever.
What an experience. I love the tenacity that you have, that nothing is going to get in your way from having that experience. And just like what's going on now in your life, and this this cancer is not going to get in your way of your life.
Mhm.
You
It's
have
not
that
gonna
tenacity. You're going to do all the things. I know you will. And I am so grateful for you. So tell me, Mel, what makes your soul soar?
well, sharing those stories, actually remembering all these
Yeah.
amazing things. So thank you, Tammy, because sometimes you forget that what you've done in the past and what you are still doing is so amazing. So I still love to travel. My big plan next is to go to Spain. Um, and I was also thinking about that answer before we did this about what makes my heart soar. And
Mhm.
the other thing I'm noticing is when I have unexpected joy just kind of like drop onto me,
Yeah.
that makes my heart soar. And it could be like the smallest thing. Abby and I were looking at her report card, and the teacher wrote the little blurb, and it was amazing. And it says something about how positive Abby is at school. And I was like, oh, and then she just says to me, yeah, I get it from you. I was like, oh, so
Oh,
all the worry that I'm not going to be a good mom or that she's not going to remember me, because yeah, it's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. And that makes my heart soar, just knowing that she's going to be okay.
Melanie, it's going to be better than okay. And we love you so very much. And I'm so grateful that you were here with us today to share these stories. I hope that we can have you again very soon. But yeah, thank you so much. We're so grateful for you.
Thank you so much, Tammy.